Fan fiction is a big conversation in the publishing industry, and we've done lots of videos on it before with everybody's favorite IP and entertainment lawyer, but we have to talk about what happens when fan fiction is being bound and sold or bound by readers so that they can have their own physical copies. Let's talk to everybody's favorite IP and entertainment lawyer, Tony, to find out more.
My name is Tony Iliakostas. I'm an adjunct professor of entertainment law and IP at New York Law School, and I have an Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok account called The IP Professor that's dedicated to all things intellectual property.
Tony, we're seeing some interesting things happen inside of the world of fan fiction. Now, we have done episodes on fan fiction and the legalities of that. We'll link those down below for everybody. But what we're seeing happen right now is that we are getting fan fiction writers creating content based off of someone else's intellectual property. They're putting it up on the internet on Wattpad or any of those reader sites for fan fiction. And then the readers are wanting printed copies of the fan fiction. So what's happening is either the writer of the fan fiction is creating these printed books and then selling them, or if that is something that they are not doing, the readers are copy pasting, printing their own copies, and binding their own books. So let's talk about the legal side of this.
So I'll start off by saying that I was just telling Cam before we were recording that this feels like one of those like weird conspiracy theories where everything just connects and it's a whole connect the dot thing. So let's start with the start of it all, which is the fan fiction author is still in the wrong here, right? We've acknowledged that before in previous videos, and I'll say it here again. If a fan fiction author wants to create a book, let's say about Hermione from Harry Potter, or Olaf in the Frozen franchise, or hey, even let's say that they want to write a book about Sorcerer Mickey, now that he's still active under copyright, there still is the overwhelming and glaring issue that you're using someone else's copyrighted work to create new copyrighted works. You have to understand that the creation of any character that you see in film, television shows, even in books, those are the characters, the entities that were created by an author. So, when, J.K. Rowling creates the characters for the Harry Potter series, or if you have, even someone like R.L. Stine with the Goosebumps series, like these are authors that have spent the time and effort to create characters within their narratives. With that in mind, as is the case with any copyrighted work, the moment you fix any work of authorship in a tangible medium of expression, there are rights that immediately vest with that copyright owner. The copyright owner, the author, has the right to create reproductions of that work. They can create derivative works off of it. They can publicly display it, publicly perform it. There are 6 that are enumerated in the Copyright Act of 1976. So in theory, if they wanted to make, let's say, a spin-off series of a character from one of their previous books, they are able to do that because they have that derivative work right. Now, if someone else wants to make a derivative work based on an existing copyright, that's when the secondary author would have to go to the original copyright owner and get permission for the ability to make a derivative of the original. So when fan fiction authors want to do spin-off series about, some maybe secondary or tertiary character in a book series, or maybe a location that is very prominent in a book series, you can't just freely do that. You have to understand that the derivative work right and all the other rights vested under copyright law equally apply in whether you're talking about just an individual character or an individual setting. So right off the bat, the fan fiction author clearly is in the wrong. There has been plenty of litigation on this, to the point that very recently, we talked about it before, the most Greek man on earth, Demetrius Polychron, was sued, first had the gall to sue the Tolkien Enterprises and Amazon for copyright infringement because he alleged that the Rings of Power series was a direct copycat of his book. Not to mention that's a whole bunch of poppycock, because then it turned out that the Tolkien Enterprises countersued, and they argued that what he created was pure fan fiction that was a derivative of the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit series that J.R.R. Tolkien is very well known for. So obviously, as you would expect, motion to dismiss was granted for Tolkien Enterprises, and Tolkien Enterprises actually succeeded in their lawsuit against Demetrius Polychron. He has to pay up upwards of almost $200 million. So it goes to show you, or 20 mil, I'm not exactly sure. It's a lot of money, millions. So very clearly, fan fiction authors are in the wrong. Now, if you're let's move down the chain. The reader that reads that fan fiction work, arguably the fan fiction author has themselves created a work of authorship. They have created a book or little short story series or whatever, anthology of a story that they created. That is protected under copyright. This is irrespective of the fact that they have infringed on someone else's copyrighted work. If a reader takes that author's work, takes it to a local printer, and has it bound with spiral binding or an actual book binding, whatever it is, whether that's a local printer or with FedEx Kinkos or anything in between, that reader is blatantly infringing on the copyright that belongs to that fan fiction author. So they're also in the wrong here. You have to understand that that fan fiction author also has rights. They have the right to publicly display it. They have the right to publicly perform it. They have the right to create derivative works or reproduce it. The reproduction right here sounds like what would be violated, because if they wanted to take, let's say, the ebook version of their fan fiction story and bind 50 copies of it as a limited series and send it to fans or sell it to fans, they're able to do so. They can do that. Again, irrespective of the other intellectual property that they're infringing, they have those rights. So when a reader is going to a store, a bookstore, or book binding store, or a printer to have those books bound, they are blatantly infringing on that reproductive work right that is vested with that copyright owner. So I hate to say it like this. I hate to be that guy, but everybody's on the wrong here. It's the classic case of the two Spider-Man pointing to each other and just saying, "You're the imposter." No, you're the imposter. Everybody is wrong here. The only winner really is the printer, because they're making good money off of that, and also the original copyright owner, the origin IP owner, because they could sue for copyright infringement and they'll very likely win. So those are the two winners out of that. But the fan fiction author and the reader that has the gall to bind that book, they're the two losers here.
And we want to make sure that we are doing things that are copyright protective. We want to make sure that we are not doing anything that is going to infringe on anybody's rights. So if you do have a fan fiction that you love, please don't go printing it out. If you have a story that you love, please don't go writing fan fiction about it. We want to make sure that we're taking care of the people who have created that IP, and we want to make sure that you're not getting sued, or that your actions aren't going to get someone else even more sued. So if you're printing things out, if they are printing things out, if things are happening, that could also reflect poorly on them when they get sued by the copyright holder. So just take that into consideration before you're doing these things. We know we love the characters. We know we love to represent them out on social media, but there are better ways to do it than fan fiction. So drop your questions down below. Tony's coming back for upcoming episodes. We talk a lot about fan fiction and the legal side of the publishing industry, both from a writer-publisher perspective and from that reader perspective. And we want to make sure that you're doing things that are good and healthy and are going to grow the industry and not hurt the industry and set it back. So drop the questions down below. And as always, you can reach out to Tony on his social media. Tony, where can everybody find you?
You can find me on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at the IP Professor. And you can check out my entertainment law podcast called End Scene, with new episodes dropping every Friday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Drop your questions on the legal side of publishing down below. Tony's coming back for upcoming episodes, and we're releasing daily episodes to help you navigate the world of publishing, from your writing to your publishing to your marketing, to make this your most profitable year ever with the least amount of stress and overwhelm on the content you're creating, so that you can live your best life while also living out your author dreams. We'll see you in the upcoming episodes.